Hey everyone, Dr. Dan Ritchie, president of the Functional Agent Institute, and I have a great friend of mine, mentor and business coach, Bedros on with me today. And we're going to be talking about the 3 hidden secrets that he's discovered really set successful business owners apart. So Bedros, thanks so much for coming on.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. What a great opportunity. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah. So just to give people a little background, you were my business coach from 2010 to 2012 in your famous 7-figure mastermind formula extraordinaire. I know the names of that keep being added. So, and it really helped transform my business. And I know years since we've kind of looked at, so what really are the magic buttons, right? Because I think sometimes people think there must be something magic in that 7-figure group, right? And I'm like, it's not really all that magical. So why don't you start out? I know we're going to try to talk about 3 things. Why don't you just start out with maybe almost the simplest thing that you see has set successful business owners apart?
Yeah, that's a good question. And what I'm going to do here real quick on my end is I'm going to shut down the Facebook notification that I keep getting.
The ding ding.
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear it, but
I did hear it.
I did a Facebook Live just minutes before we went on, and I didn't even realize how many people were going to respond to that darn thing, to be honest with you. And so, all right, there we go. Now let me find you. Uh-oh, where are you, Dan? There you are.
I'm still here.
All right, so the bottom line is this. It's so neat. Like anything else, as a personal trainer, when we start out, we go, okay, I have an idea of how helping people is going to look. You know, they're going to eat right. They're going to work out. They're going to have this awesome mindset of I can do it, and I'm going to stay motivated. But then we quickly realize that they don't necessarily want to eat right. They don't have the support and accountability at home like we thought they would or should or planned on having. And they think they can simply out-train a bad diet, even though they come in and give, you know, maybe 20, 30, 40, 50% of the effort, or sometimes 80% of the effort. So then we realize, excuse me, that something else has to change. And so we somehow become really good at saying, all right, you know what, maybe the nutrition program I gave you was too strict. While it would work in a perfect world, we realize we're in an imperfect world. You have life, you have a spouse, you have work, and so let's see if we can give you a more realistic nutrition plan. Let's see if we can give you a more realistic workout plan. People ask me, why are Fit Body Bootcamp workouts 30 minutes long? And I say, if that is the only way I can get someone into our workout program to either work out or not work out, I want 1-hour workouts for people. I really do. I want to be able to go through mobility and warm-ups and, of course, you know, proper cool down and all this stuff. But the reality is people have excuses of, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, and I don't have the support system. I got to go talk to a spouse or get approval from someone. And so if we can fix the money issue, if we can get the spouse to be supportive, the only other way that I found that we're going to get them into the program was to cut the program time in half and expedite the results. And so that's what we did, and that's why Fit Body Bootcamp is so successful with 30-minute afterburn workouts. We just train large muscle groups in gross movements and get them there. But anyway, what we found very quickly, like everything else, what we thought was going to work in coaching and consulting fitness professionals versus what really works, 2 different things. And so after having coached now over 1,900 personal trainers just through my 7-figure formula mastermind, not the info group, not private coaching, just through the one that you've gone through, we found that there's a common denominator in the most successful people in it. So what are those common denominators? Well, very much like you, they come in not necessarily when they're already making money, but they come in usually when the financial belt is pretty tight. And it's because, right, I mean, that's probably what happened to you and Cody. I remember when you guys were
yeah, so it was just after 2009. That was a fun year for fitness owners.
Yeah, right. The economy crashes, and everyone all of a sudden goes, I'm not interested in working with a trainer. And where everyone else was retreating, you and Cody, your business partner, decided, you know what? I think we just have to find a newer, better, more effective way of marketing, communicating our message. The alternative was to go and, I don't know, be a PhD that's working at McDonald's, I suppose, and I'd be this marketing guy that's working at McDonald's, and we'd end up bagging fries together, right? So we had to be resourceful. So I can tell you this right now, anyone who's been successful, whether it's through my seven-figure coaching program or private coaching program comes with the mindset of, I know the belt is tight, but I have to commit financially. They make that financial commitment early on. They've committed to it even before they come to a workshop that I'm running or a summit or whatever. And the reason that's important is I can't help anyone if they're not committed. You as a trainer and I as a trainer can't help anyone if they're not committed. They can go, hey, I've got the money, but if they're still not committed, they don't have the support from the family, they don't have the time that they've carved out 3 to 5 days a week, there's nothing we can do. So one, we need people to come to us who are committed. So the most successful trainers aren't necessarily, they're not the smartest, because listen, you look at any broadcast that I send out on every single day, and I send out broadcasts and put Facebook posts, and you know this, Dan, there's always a spelling error. In fact, it's become my trademark, and Josh Carter and a handful of others laugh at me. Craig Ballantyne, what do you call me? He called me ignorant, right? And I say that with love. He's like a brother to me. But he goes, you're ignorant. How do you make all this money? Listen, English is a second language for me. I don't have to be the sharpest knife in the drawer, but man, am I committed. I will send out an email every day, no matter what, to my list, and I will motivate, inspire, and teach them how to grow their business.
I love how you still use English as a second language as your excuse.
It's only been 36 years that I've been in this country.
Right, yeah, it's only been most of your lifetime.
Listen, I'll take any advantage I can get to get you to feel sorry for me. Like that post, why is he looking at his own videos, taking a picture of his dog?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Because if I had a picture of the email that I was working on, it just wasn't as sexy. Excuse me. So thing number one is you have to commit to the outcome. And so whether you and Cody came in 2009 committed to the idea of, hey, we have to make Miracles Fitness successful, even though the economy is crashing, once you come in committed, it's easy for you to work with that client, whether they are a personal training client or a business coaching client. Thing number two is that you can't be afraid of hard work. And I say this because with hard work comes adversity. You have to learn the things that we didn't necessarily want to learn when we learned exercise science, biomechanics, nutrition concepts, etc. We went to school and we got the certifications to learn how to work with the human body, yet we quickly realized that if I ever plan on working with the human body and actually have enough clients to support myself and make some kind of impact in my community, I have to learn the things that aren't necessarily things that I care to learn, like marketing, influence, sales, even language patterns that help us convey the message to people. Oftentimes as trainers, you know, a new prospect comes in and we have them do an overhead squat test with the broomstick behind their head or over their head, and we see their heels leave the ground and we go, gee, we need to work on your posterior chain. Not realizing that the reason they came into us was because earlier that morning their son had, you know, poked the fat and said, Mommy, you're fat. And the night before, the husband turned her down when she wanted to make love. And those are the realities of our industry. Yet we're asking them to do an overhead squat test to see if their heels are leaving the ground. And so there's a communication mismatch.
Yep.
And so the hard work comes in when you have to go, you know what, as much as I don't want to learn marketing and running Facebook ads and selling and persuasion and overcoming objections and, man, even running a front desk software system to manage my clients and their reoccurring revenue, if you don't go through that hard work and get past that learning curve, you're never going to be successful, no matter how many degrees and credentials and education you have. That's just the reality of it. So they can't be afraid of hard work. And with that then comes the third thing, which is when you are entering the world of learning something new, in your guys' case in 2009, you had to learn how to market yourself, even though you're a PhD and you guys are phenomenal trainers. Like, if I lived there, I'd be training with you and Cody, nobody else, because I have so many aches and pains. You at some point realize that I have to learn these other skill sets. And in the process of learning these skill sets and deploying them, you run into a lot of roadblocks. For example, you run a Facebook ad, and a Facebook ad that worked for a guy across the county or even in the state next door to you, the Facebook ad ran and worked and they got clients. You go to run that Facebook ad and all of a sudden Facebook decides to slap you and shut down your Facebook marketing account. And you can't understand why this happened. Now immediately you go, dang it, I give up. And the first thing we want to do is we want to give up, we want to throw in the towel because it's adversity that we weren't expecting. But the thing I like to teach people is adversity is really an advantage. And I look at adversity as the resistance against our minds and our hearts. What I mean by that is, as trainers, we have our clients work against resistance. You know, I remember when I first got into working out, man, I was like 30 pounds overweight in high school and 35 pounds overweight. And all I wanted to do was work out and go to the prom, just so I can make it to prom senior year. And over the summer before, let's see here, 12th grade, I lost the 35 pounds. I worked out and so on, and it was pretty neat to see how my body adapted, man. I went from like 15-pound dumbbell curls and like 10-pound shoulder presses to 50-pound shoulder presses at the end of summer, and 35-pound dumbbell curls. And that's when I realized that the more resistance you put against your muscles over time and consistency, your muscles will adapt and get stronger. Well, you fast forward 20 some odd years now, and the resistance for the entrepreneur is adversity. When Facebook slaps you, when competition badmouths you, when Yelp decides that they're going to try and extort money from you in order to show those good reviews that they're otherwise hiding, and that's what Yelp does. You can either look at that as an opportunity to lay down and die and go away, or you can say, you know what, this is great, I was expecting this, this is the adversity that I need, which is the resistance that I get to curl against my mental muscles. And so as long as you come into any kind of coaching program with the desire that where you're committed, number one, unafraid of hard work, not allergic to hard work, and knowing that you're going to deal with adversity, and when you do, you accept that as an advantage so that it is going to make you stronger, more resilient, and more successful. Because I think it was Napoleon Hill who said that every adversity comes with a seed of equal opportunity of growth. And I think that is the strongest statement I've ever heard, because now I go around looking for challenges. The way I look at it is, the more adversities I can put myself and my business against, the faster my success, and I time collapse, right? I time collapse. I take what was supposed to take maybe 15 years to build this giant international franchise, and I did it in 6 years because I just went out there and hired consultants. 20 grand a month. I paid for 6.5 months. I paid consultants $20,000 a month who were supposed to teach me how to build a franchise. After 6 months, I realized they had no idea, and they were probably Googling the answers. Now, did I learn something from them? I did. Was it worth 20 grand a month times 6 months? No, but I learned something from them that helped me justify the experience and pass it along to my coaching clients. I now realize that if I'm going to teach something, I better practice before I profess it. If you've been around with me long enough as a client, where you know right around 2007, 2008, because I had one-on-one personal training gyms. I knew nothing about group training and boot camps. So if I'm going to start a Fit Body boot camp franchise, well, by God, I better be good at group training, and I better know the ins and outs of it. So in 2007, late 2007, 2008, I started an outdoor fitness boot camp here in Chino Hills, and it was just called Chino Hills Boot Camp. I didn't even have the name Fit Body Boot Camp yet. And for a year and a half, I marketed the program. I went through the learning curve of training people in a group environment because I came from the one-on-one world, and I learned very quickly how beneficial it was to train people in the group environment. If they came at the same time, they built this family, this community, this commitment with each other, and retention went through the roof. They had this friendly competitiveness. So I saw all the pluses of group training. I also saw some of the negatives. For example, if I had clients who would come and say, look, I have my L4, L5 fuse, I would say, you know what? I'm a great one-on-one personal trainer. I simply don't have the time to train you one-on-one. You've got your L4, L5 fuse, and I had there was one lady who had 4 months earlier had a hip replacement, her left hip. I had to turn them away. I also saw some of the negatives of group training where, man, if they're not apparently healthy, I can't train them like I used to as a one-on-one trainer where I could modify and kind of watch over them like a hawk. Yeah. So once I got good at doing my thing, my practice, then I was able to launch Fit Body Boot Camp and say, hey, here's a brand that you can build and get successful with. But again, the fastest way to success, the commonalities I've seen after coaching almost 2,000 fitness business owners who went from making $30,000, $40,000 a year to making anywhere from $40,000 to $100,000 a month in gross revenue, is that they had those three factors. They were committed to the outcome. They knew it was going to take some time, a year or so to get there. They weren't afraid of the hard work and the bumps and bruises they're going to get, and they knew that that adversity was the catalyst to that learning curve they needed so they can get mentally stronger as an entrepreneur. If they come to me with those three things, or if I can instill that in them early on in the coaching program, then they're going to be super successful. If they come to me knowing that, man, Bedros, you've helped people get successful, and so I want you to do that for me. And I've had people like that. First day of the mastermind, one guy, so my masterminds are on Thursday, Friday. In fact, we're going to see each other this weekend, right? This coming weekend in San Diego.
Yeah, San Diego.
Are you home right now, or are you in San Diego right now?
I am in my office right now.
Okay. Got it.
I'm actually not going to be there. So Cody is running the mastermind. So
Oh, got it. All right. Hey, you can count on us, Coach. Me and Cody will take the group. Yeah.
It pays to have two of us, so I don't have to be everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well. So effectively, there was this one particular mastermind. We had already signed. It was right after a fitness business summit, so we had gotten like 30, 40 new members on board. And one of the guys, his very first mastermind, it was in Vegas. He shows up, and he's still, you can smell the alcohol on his breath. His eyes are still a little glassy. And we were doing the hot seats, and he kept kind of falling asleep and dozing off. And when we finally got to him, he was like, oh, I was under the impression kind of you're going to write the ads for me and run the Facebook campaigns. That's why we're paying all this money, right? And I said, no, it would cost you about 10 times more than that.
For us to run your business.
Yeah. I said, by the way, if you don't mind me asking, how was last night for you? He's like, oh, Bedros, it was fantastic. We went and rode the mechanical bull at the Monte Carlo, and we had 2-for-1 drinks and da-da-da-da. And so it was at that mastermind that I snapped at him, and I said, never ride the effing bull again, implying that unless your business is rocking, you have no business being on a mechanical bull in Las Vegas and seeing a stage show, and you don't have that luxury. And that's the reality of it. And so those that come to me to a coaching program or go to any coaching program, for example, and think that the work is going to happen because you just paid for it, it's not. You have no luxury of riding the mechanical bull, seeing the Penn and Teller show, going out and getting drinks, because you've got to be in your room, absolutely sober, fully committed to doing the things that you were taught just hours earlier, so you can come down on day 2 and go, I deployed that email broadcast and set up that Facebook ad, and here's the results I had over the last 9 hours while we were asleep. Those are the clients that get results, not the ones that go, I paid, where's the outcome? We normally give them a refund and say, have a good life. And I imagine you would do that as well as a trainer if you had a client who just paid and expected results to magically happen.
So I want to ask you a question you're not prepared for. So we'll see if we can catch the FitBody CEO off guard here. I know dozens of FitBody owners, and in fact last week I was training 4 or 5 FitBody owners, and we had this conversation about entrepreneurship and business ownership, and I would say FitBody does a tremendous job of doing so much stuff for their owners, right? I mean, you provide written email content, FitPro newsletter, promotions, websites, SEO. I mean, so much stuff, right? It almost looks like, hey, I could buy this business and FitBody will just run it for me. But the one thing we were talking about at lunch, I said, but there has to be a huge difference between the really successful FitBody owners and the ones who are just doing well enough to get by. And maybe you could shed some light on that. I mean, I said, I think the big difference is being a business owner is not as easy or as glamorous as it looks. I mean, like, especially when you first start out, like all the FitBody owners in the room are like, yeah, nobody warns you how hard the first 6 months are going to be. Like, nobody wants to redo the first 6 months of starting a business. So maybe you can shed some light on that.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up, because even though we've made FitBody Bootcamp as done for you as possible, and that's really what it's all about, right? I mean, if I'm going to start a franchise, and I'm going to start a brand and put my name on it, I want to make it different. I don't want to just show you how to do it. I want to run the ads for you, set up your website, make sure your website's highest converting. Like you said, write the email campaigns, and we even now upload it to their FitPro newsletter account where they can just go and find that campaign and send. But even then, it's done for you as we made it. Your mileage may vary, man. You know, depending on the community where you live, how well you've marketed yourself on Facebook, and how many Facebook Lives you've done and great posts you put up there. In other words, we can't control how liked and trusted you are in your community.
Right.
We can give you clicks to do that. And so very quickly, our owners who just go nuts, they'll take their iPhones and listen, I didn't know how to do a live. I just took my iPhone and like, hey, this is Bedros, and da-da-da. And then people were posting, listen, you're sideways, you're upside down. And my first couple Facebook Lives, I had to just figure it out, right? Like everybody else. But there's the people who say, you know what, I'm going to wait until I know how to do it perfectly and then roll it out. Those are the fit body owners or trainers, you just call it whatever you want, who end up struggling more the first 6 months. Those who go, okay, so if I can do the Facebook stuff that you guys can't, in other words, do a Facebook Live of my place being built out, Facebook Live, look, we just got our sign on the building, a Facebook Live of we just had our floors put in, Facebook Live of we just got the logo painted on the wall, all those things lend to people getting excited. It's no different like a movie release, right, is the way we describe it at our Fit Body University. They're going to go on the Jay Leno show, the Tonight Show, and talk about the movie that's coming out in a week or two, even show a little clip to get us excited. And the location owners who are willing to do that uncomfortable task of going live and wondering who the hell is watching me and what are they thinking right now and are they about to criticize me, because that's how I feel, and I start sweating profusely till this day when I do a Facebook Live. Because there's nothing more intimidating, by the way. You do a Facebook Live and the thing says 0. You know, how many people are watching me right now? 0, right? And then 1, and I go, I wonder if that's my mom. You know, and so those who have built the local know, like, and trust factor, everything we do at the headquarters here, which is their grand opening promotion and all these Facebook ads and campaigns we run, it's like putting a supercharger on a car. Those that didn't do that end up struggling more. But I got to tell you, across the board, whether it's Fit Body or any other brand or your own brand, the first 6 months are the most painful, most negative self-talk period of your time, where you just get in your car at the end of the day and go, holy shit, is tomorrow going to be like this as well? And maybe it is, and maybe it's not, because you have a list of things to do. I'm going to run a Facebook ad, send out a broadcast, and I got 3 people that I'm going to sell on my program. Well, that's what's on your list.
Yeah.
What the world decides to throw at you is something completely different. It could be a car ran right through your window, you know, at night while you were sleeping. It could be that a trainer decided to anarchy and, hey, I'm going to cut the prices in half and steal all your clients and train them at the park. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
And so how do you prevent that? You don't necessarily have a way of preventing it, but you do have a way of building up your adversity muscles so that you can carry that load when it comes, and it will come as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think of it in terms of like personal pain, right? Like I have clients that have knee replacements, and at the 4-week mark, they're still like, man, I don't know if I should have done this, right? Because they're still suffering, they're hurting. They're like, I'm hurting worse now than I was before I had this done. And I'm like, just hang in there. At the 8 to 12 week mark, you'll be glad you did it, you know. And so that birthing pains of business ownership can be kind of rough. So it's not for the faint of heart. So I want to ask you a last question before we talk just briefly about why we invited you to speak at the Functional Aging Summit. Share with me what you've seen from the power of masterminds, from the power of live events, from the power of networking. You know, I talk a lot about, you know, the reason I attend events and still come to one of your masterminds every year is just to network with other people, because the power of sitting in a room with 30 or 50 or 100 people that are all passionate about the same thing, you know, kind of refuels me, right? I mean, it excites me. It makes me realize, yeah, there are people out there thinking really big. It's not just about the economy or who was elected president or any of that nonsense, right? I mean, there's some really exciting things happening. And so share some insights as to why people should attend live events.
Yeah. That's actually a really good question, and it's funny because that's what my Facebook Live was on right before we went here, and it's actually a 2-parter, so I'll explain. Part 1 is the environmental exposure, and let me explain it this way. If I wanted to buy and sell stock and invest in different, you know, public companies, the person that I want to learn from, and I'm sure you'll agree here, Dan, is Warren Buffett. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The man has a track record that's unmatched. He has made more buying and selling decisions of stock than you and I have probably made in our lifetime of all decisions combined.
Yep.
And so he is concerned, I want to be reading a book that he wrote is one thing. Watching YouTube videos of Warren Buffett being interviewed is one thing. being within his environment, the environmental exposure. Imagine if you could just for a whole month just hang out with him. Warren Buffett, he wakes up, you wake up right next to him. You have the bed right next to him. He's eating breakfast, you're eating breakfast. He's working out, you're pumping iron next to him. You're talking. He takes a call and he puts it on speakerphone for you so that you can hear both sides of the conversation. You get to see how much he listens, waits, calculates, and then makes a decision versus reacting impulsively. And over a month or so of environmental exposure to Warren Buffett, you have time collapsed, probably by 2 decades, your learning curve of buying and selling stock. Now, the reality is that most people will never have that opportunity to do that. Whereas in our world, in fitness and in fitness business specifically, you and I have created opportunities for trainers who are maybe up and coming or maybe know that they haven't reached their fullest potential yet and are stuck and frustrated and overwhelmed to come and sit down and learn from the best in the industry who were once where they are through environmental exposure for 2, 3, 4 days if it's a seminar, 3 days if it's a mastermind, or 2 days if it's a mastermind. And then that environmental exposure continues on in the private Facebook groups that we've set up for our workshops and masterminds and so on. And you multiply that by a year or two, you go, man, well, that's a long time, a year or two. Not if you consider a decade of struggling in business, it's not.
Right.
Right? I mean, that's the reality of it. And so, excuse me, most of the time, if you can be around the people that you want to emulate your business, like literally be around them, talk to them, see their decision-making abilities, let them get a call that's bad news and see how they handle the bad news and go, how would I handle the bad news? One of the greatest compliments I got was from Shauna Kaminsky and Craig Ballantyne, and both of them said, you know, it's weird, but after having worked with you for so long, when you're going around answering questions in a mastermind doing hot seats, they go 90% of the time, I know the answer and I yell it out of my head before you give it. And it's the answer that you would give. And I go, well, what's so exciting about that to you? They go, well, I know instinctively I have a good business gut now because I've adopted your habits, behaviors, and belief systems where business is concerned.
Right.
I said, wow, that's really great. And that's where I started to understand what environmental exposure is, right? And you've heard me talk about Jim Franco, my personal training client from years ago who was my first mentor. I had asked him, I said, hey, Jim, can I come to Autolog? That's the name of his business. And I'd come and I'd sit in his little glass office that he had, and I'd hear him take calls and stuff. Now, I would just go there because I liked Jim Franco. I liked his energy. He was like my rich dad. I had my dad who's my poor dad, and he's like my rich dad. So I would go because I had nothing else to do. I have no clients to train anymore. My day was over, and I'd go and hang out in his office, and he was kind enough, not realizing that through environmental exposure, I started picking up his mannerisms, his cadence, the way he would talk, and voice inflections. And very quickly, people at the gym who know that I train him were like, man, you really have a lot of Jim Franco habits. Like, really? Yeah. And we're animals at the end of the day, and we tend to adapt to the people around us. And so this leads to thing number 2, which is, as you said, your net worth is the equivalent of your network.
Yes.
And listen, if there's people that you want to meet and who are successful and you want to do business with, sure, you can find them on Facebook, send them a private message, you can get their email address, send them an email, and never hear from them, or hear from them in a way that's where they're reluctant, they're resistant, they have a wall up. Or you can go to an event that they're speaking at, they're part of a mastermind, maybe they're running that mastermind, and be there and during the breaks, break bread with them, have a drink with them, have lunch and dinner with them. And very quickly, I've seen you personally develop so many business relationships that have developed directly into tens of thousands of dollars in revenue.
Yep. Yeah, no, I mean, and I think, too, for anyone listening we have this tendency to feel like, well, I'm the only one that is experiencing this suffering, this pain, or this challenge, or my business is unique, right? Like every entrepreneur out there feels like, well, but nobody understands what I'm going through. And then you come to these events and you're like, there's like dozens of people around here that are experiencing what I'm experiencing. And now you have someone else to, really discuss things with via email, get on the phone with. I mean, I've hopped on business owners, all around the world now and and commiserated, like, man, that's a terrible thing you're going through, but let's figure out how we can turn that around for good. And so there's just a real energy and synergy, and you feel like you're not really doing it on your own, right? You're not working in isolation, which I think is the business owner's trap, right? We set up our own world as a business owner, and pretty soon we realize, like, it's kind of lonely, it's kind of isolated, because I can't talk to my buddy who works 9 to 5 and doesn't have the same stress I do, right?
Could you imagine telling your buddy that, hey, guess what? I just ran a low barrier offer promotion on Facebook. I spent about $600 and we made about $6,000 back. Like, your buddy would be upset at you because he would be poking fun at him and his linear income.
Right.
Because you have this ability to create exponential income as long as you can figure out the offer and the ad and the way to convert these people into long-term clients. And so you're right, man. We tend to isolate ourselves and then become an island of one, and we go, well, none of my friends who have jobs can understand me, and soon we begin to suffer in silence. And then when you go to a workshop, a seminar, a mastermind, and you go, holy crap, you experienced that, and you experienced that? And then someone goes, yeah, I did. Here's what I did about it, and you get 10 other answers to that problem. You're no longer an island. It's like, oh my gosh, I thought I was a loner. I'm not. I just wasn't hanging out with other like-minded professionals. And so it's critical for survival.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to try to show my screen here. Let's see if this works. I hit a technology button and the whole thing crashes. But can you see my screen, Bedros? It should be a picture of you, right? So I figured, well, who better than to have a marketing guy on and show a picture of himself, right? Because I know that probably, look, I could see the glimmer in your eye. You're like, hey, that's a good looking picture.
That's a handsome dude, isn't it?
So
a lot of Photoshop.
The magic of photographers, right? So Bedros is speaking on the 11 undisputed laws of personal success and business dominance. And the interesting thing here, Bedros, is, I don't know if you realize this, I'll see if I can scroll through the page, but we actually have the president of the American College of Sports Medicine. Let's see where she is on here. Yep, here she is. Liz Joy is speaking as well. So we're bringing in the president from FitBody and the president from the American College of Sports Medicine. So two universes do collide, and so that will be fun, and you'll get to meet her and go to dinner with her as well. So we've got a really cool lineup. It's cool to have you kicking off Friday morning. And so let's just open it up to questions. If people have any questions for you in terms of what they've heard today, and we'll take questions for about 10 minutes. So so I don't know if you ever thought you'd be keynoting the same event as the president of ACSM.
Man, it's quite the honor, and I will try to drop less F-bombs than I normally do. keep the butthole pucker to a minimum.
All right, folks. Any questions for Bedros? Sandra Clark, great stuff, Bedros. Lots of exclamation points. She says, you mean the first year was hard. She says, actually, for me, the first 3 years, but coming on strong in the fourth year. Sandra Clark, when is the event? The Functional Aging Summit is June 16th and 17th. If you can see my screen, you can probably check out the registration page. Any other questions? Go ahead, Bedros.
Orlando?
Yes, Orlando. Yep. So if you got an excuse to get to Disney, June 16th and 17th. All right, Joseph has a question. Says he's starting up a walking group. Would you say this is a good strategy to get new clients?
Absolutely, and here's why. It's such a low barrier, low risk opportunity, right? You know, one of the things we hear as trainers is, I need to get in shape before I can come and work out with you. And it's like, come on, man. I specialize in like varying different fitness levels. That's what I do. Don't take that joy away from me. And so if you can start a walking group that even just meets like on, let's say, just twice a week or even on a weekend. And in fact, it's funny that this comes up because the way I started Chino Hills Boot Camp when I was doing it in the park to learn how to run boot camps was for a whole month. I put up, I think you remember this, Dan, those political signs all throughout my city. They were yellow and black, and it said Chino Hills Fitness Boot Camp, free all month, every Saturday, and it said chbootcamp.com. That was it. And they would go and they would opt in, and yes, I want to work out at Chino Hills Boot Camp, and I'd get their name and email address and phone number, and call them up and say, hey, it's Saturday at this time. It was 4 Saturdays for free. And then on the fourth and final Saturday, I said, hey, guys, I wish I can keep training everybody for free on the weekends, but I can't. And quite frankly, working out just once a week is not enough. So as of Monday morning, we are doing a 8:30 a.m. and a 9:30 a.m. session. I didn't even have evening ones. I just had those two. And by then I had about, by the fourth Saturday, I had about 40 or 50 people who were coming to the free boot camps. You know, each one kind of grew. Because I asked them at the end of every Saturday boot camp, hey, go tell your friends about it, bring your neighbors along next weekend. And of the 40 or 50 people, 19 of them immediately signed up for $299 per month. Now, that's not a lot of money, but that was a substantial amount of money to then boost my business and put me in a place where now I could start running lead generators. And this was pre-Facebook, so I was running ads in the local newspaper. But yeah, starting a walking group, it's so low barrier, it's so under the radar where the intimidation factor is concerned that you can do that for a few weeks back to back and then catapult them into a low barrier offer. Hey, I'm doing a 21-day rapid fat loss program. It's $67. 100% of that money is going to go to the local charity or fire department. And you can have some of those people transfer over, and as they experience your boot camp or group training program, now they evolve and stay longer and become a long-term client. So fantastic idea there. And quite honestly, you're giving back to the community, and I'm a big believer in the more you give, the more you get.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Hey, Joe has a great question for you. What's the best Facebook social media strategy for driving live traffic to a brick and mortar?
From live traffic?
Yeah, Facebook social media strategy for driving live traffic.
Yeah. So I did this 2 weeks ago with my 7-Figure Formula Mastermind members. I first tested it out with my business. I did a live cast. I don't know if you guys remember. And in that live cast, so what I did, I got the little suction cup thingamajig, and I put it on my window at home. And I was in my living room with the camera. And it was pretty neat because I went through a case study of 3 different trainers who are coaching clients and their evolution to success. And then I said how I met each of those coaching clients at Fitness Business Summit. So I showed who they are, I talked about their success, I gave away a nugget or two of strategies they've used to achieve that success, and I went on to say how I met them at Fitness Business Summit. And I said, oh, by the way, if you want to know if Fitness Business Summit is right for you, instead of in the past where I would send them to go to fitnessbusinesssummit.com, I said, just send me a private message. And, you know, we'll chat back and forth, and we can talk about if Fitness Business Summit is an event you should go to, if it's worth your time, etc. And, man, we ended up getting like 40 or 50 private messages, and so many of them, we discovered that they were a good fit to come to Fitness Business Summit, and I just sent them the link after our conversation, and they registered. So then I went into our our 7-Figure Formula Mastermind group, Facebook group, and I said, guys, here's what I did. The next time you do a live broadcast, whether it's from your boot camp or gym or wherever, and you're giving away tips and you're showing clients and their results, go, hey, if you want to know if working out here is right for you, if you think you're a good fit or you're not sure if you're a good fit, just send me a private message. Because, again, just like a running group or walking group, it's such a low barrier, low intimidation offer rather than go to my website and sign up or click the link down below to give me your email address. You're just saying, send me a private message. Let's talk back and forth. And if you are a good fit, I'll give you an invitation to come work out here for 3 days absolutely free. And, again, many of my 7-Figure Formula clients did that, ran the live, made the offer to get on a Facebook message conversation, and instantly got leads who they were able to bring in for just 3 or 4 free sessions, not a lot, and then converted them into long-term paying clients.
Sure. Hey, you hearing me okay?
I am. Are you hearing me okay?
Yeah, hearing you great. Sandra Clark asks, is FAI facility located in Arizona or what city? Sandra, I'm guessing you're talking about my FAI facility, which is actually in Indiana, West Lafayette, Indiana. But there actually are now FAI facilities all across the globe. We're in 16 countries. So if you're looking for a specific FAI facility, just reach out to me directly and I can connect you with one. Thelma Saunders asks, who should attend the Functional Aging Summit? Well, Really, the simple answer to that, Thelma, is anyone interested in training the 50-plus population. So whether you're a personal trainer, a group fitness instructor, you're training these clients, or you own a studio and you want to market to these clients, it's really a mix. So we've set it up this year, Bedros. It's a third sort of business leadership and mindset, and we got you in that category in terms of like, how do I be the most successful business entrepreneur? We've got a third that's the business marketing to boomers and seniors, and then we've got a third that's actually the training. So bring your trainers along, because we're going to teach them the latest research on balance and power training, and like how do we get grandma squatting more than Bedros, and that sort of stuff. So it's a mix. So it's really for the business owner and the trainer that's targeting the boomers and seniors. So again, it's in Orlando. It's only $199, and we give you the 2015 and 2016 event, which Bedros spoke at the first one in 2015. It was an awesome event. So I think that answers that question. All right, last question. Sandra, good question on Facebook. Are buying Facebook ads to boost your business worth it?
Are buying Facebook ads to boost your business worth it? Absolutely. What I wouldn't do is I wouldn't just boost a Facebook fan page post that you put up there unless you have a specific strategy. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you created a really cool video, not a live video. It could just be like a 3-minute really cool video at your gym or boot camp where you show them the top 2 exercises to firm, tone, and tighten your midsection. It could be a plank and it could be flutter kicks and the proper way to do it, etc. Just 2 to 3 minutes. You post it on your Facebook fan page, well, that's fantastic. But if you just boost that on its own, yes, it's going to get a lot of eyeballs. Sure, it might even get some shares and some comments. But remember, your most wanted outcome from any time you're spending money on social media, or any kind of marketing dollars for that matter, is to get the lead who is qualified. And so a simple thing you can do is write a caption above that video, right in the post description. Hey, here are the top 2 exercises that you can do at home to firm, tone, tighten your midsection. Oh, by the way, if you'd like to try 3 free workouts here at my gym or boot camp or facility, click this link. Now, the moment you put a link in the description box, in the post description on Facebook, Facebook will neuter the distribution because they don't want to send people off of Facebook. So if you just want to put up a video that gets a lot of views and shares just so that you're giving back, that's okay to do. Don't have a link so that Facebook will share it with all the fans on your fan page. But if you plan on putting a link, then you have to commit to also boosting it, because when you boost it, Facebook all of a sudden looks away and says, hey, even though you have a link that's going outside of Facebook, I'm going to look away since you're paying me to promote this to your fan page. And remember, you can pay to promote it not only to the members of your fan page, which I assume are people who are local residents who are interested in fitness and fat loss, but you can actually target people in your community if you go into the ad manager. So if you go a little deeper into the Facebook ad manager and say, you know what, show this particular post to women within 3 to 5 miles of your address, of your gym, who are between this age group, now you can really target and boost through the ad manager and really slice and dice with greater specificity. So absolutely, I'm a big fan of doing it, but when you do it, just make sure you do it with a purpose in mind so that you can get the most desired outcome.
Okay, great. Well, Bedros, thanks for coming on. I hate that I'm going to miss you in San Diego and Mastermind. I know you're running your 7-figure Mastermind, and Cody will be running our FAI Mastermind. I'm sure you guys will have a blast in San Diego. A couple folks were asking again about Functional Aging Summit, so I put the headline page up here. It's faieducation.com/FAS 2017. So we'd love to see you in Orlando. We've got a whole bunch of fun stuff planned there, and we'll even get Bedros Keuilian and the president of ACSM together. So we are bringing people together from all corners of the fitness world. So thanks again, Bedros.
Thanks for the opportunity, Dan. Great talking to you, man.
Yep, bye-bye.